I have written 262 words for this session.
Oh, Sybil. So cute.
For this session, I have written 41 words.
I've been giving these snacks a try for the first time, and they are so good. Let's talk about some books. The newest additions to my library. There might be some sizzling in this part of the video because my husband is cooking up some bacon to make quiche. Anyways, I'm super excited because not too long ago I just talked about how I don't really purchase too many books at a time because I'm a slow collector and I'm really a slow purchaser as well because I like to take my time before I buy books, and I'll usually try to at least read them once over from the library or through ebooks if I can. But most of these books that I added to my collection I could not find at the library, so I purchased them. And I have, let's see here, 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, and then some pending as well. So about like maybe 16 or 17 total. So let's get into this because I love sharing and talking books. So number 1, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I actually borrowed this copy from my library and I fell in love with this book so hard that I ended up purchasing one for myself. It is a thrifted copy and I love it because I love the thrifted books. I love the character and the texture that these thrifted books have, like the already softness that they have. So Rebecca, love it. I'm reading slowly because I do not want to get through this fast at all. I want to savor every moment of my first read. Number 2, The Scarlet Pimpernel. This one I found at the library and I did sample on Google and I read the first page and it just captured me. There's something to it. So I ended up purchasing it because I really just wanted to savor it as slowly as I'm savoring Rebecca as well. My intuitive guess is that this is gonna be, I think that people who enjoy Rebecca might actually enjoy The Scarlet Pimpernel, and let me read you the first paragraph so you might understand why. Chapter 1, Paris, September 1792. So we're in Paris, it's September, we're already in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think right now. We're in a very atmospheric time of the year. And it's synchronous that we're actually in September and I'm sharing this. Anyways, a surging, seething, murmuring crowd of beings that are human only in name, for to the eye and ear they seem naught but savage creatures, animated by vile passions and by the lust of vengeance and of hate. The hour, some little time before sunset, and the place, the West Barricade, at the very spot where, a decade later, a proud tyrant raised an undying monument to the nation's glory and his own vanity. That first paragraph had me. So it reads to me vibe-wise like Rebecca does, though it is a way different setting in that I believe this is more political, or at least the story surrounds a more political theme, but it's written well already, and just by the first paragraph I have high expectations, so I'm very excited to get into this. Number 3, Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. So with this book, I actually found this on a Barnes & Noble browsing excursion, and I sampled Constance Garnett's translation against other translators, and I actually like her translation for Dead Souls. Just by the first, let me get to it. By the first line, I preferred Garnett's more than others. So let me give you a little sample. Chapter 1, Part 1. A rather pretty little chaise on springs, such as bachelors, half-pay officers, staff captains, landowners with about 100 serfs, in short, all such as are spoken of as gentlemen of the middling sort, drive about in, rolled in at the gates of the hotel of the provincial town of N. Garnett's translation, at least for Dead Souls, is a little bit more flowery than others. I think the other translators take a more like sterile and rather stoic approach to translating Dead Souls, but I actually prefer her vibe for this book. I haven't read it, but I'm just talking about how I like to experience books, and just by that first line, I mean, I'm already into it. Another one of her translations I do actually prefer over others is Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, which is surprising because, again, it's more flowery than the other translators, but I actually prefer that for the vibes I'm trying to go for with this book and Crime and Punishment. And Crime and Punishment, I'm planning on reading either later this year, I hope to get to it, or maybe early next year. What I'm trying to convey is that with Garnett's translation, I get a more romantic experience, and that's what I'm going for with this book. Also because the other ones were just so dry, and if it's already starting out dry, I don't foresee it getting more romantic. So anyways, I found this copy of Barnes & Nobles, but I actually purchased this secondhand because I wanted more of that used vibe to my book. Okay, book number 4. This one I actually found at a little free library, and it's been on my TBR for a while, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I think her name is Lucy Maud Montgomery. So I'm very excited to get into this. I read Anne of Green Gables as a kid, and I watched the old VHS tapes, and I used to love Anne of Green Gables. Anne Shirley was like my hero. So the reason why I want to get into this book again is because just the first line of this book, again, let me sample it. I think it's a very long sentence, and it's a very impressively long sentence is how this book begins. Yes, okay. So, Mrs. Rachel Lynde lived just where the Avonlea, oh my goodness, I don't even know if I'm saying this right anymore because it's been so long. Let's begin again. Chapter 1, Mrs. Rachel Lynde is surprised. Mrs. Rachel Lynde lived just where Avonlea Main Road dipped down into a little hollow, fringed with alders and ladies' eardrops, and traversed by a brook that had its source away back in the woods of the old Cuthbert place. It was reputed to be an intricate, headlong brook in its earlier course through those woods, with dark secrets of pool and cascade, but by the time it reached Lynde's Hollow, it was a quiet, well-conducted little stream, for not even a brook could run past Mrs. Rachel Lynde's door without due regard for decency and decorum. It probably was conscious that Mrs. Rachel was sitting at her window, keeping a sharp eye on everything that passed, from brooks and children up, and that if she noticed anything odd or out of place, she would never rest until she had ferreted out the whys and wherefores thereof. Beautiful sentence. Dare I say a little Proustian? Anyways, I'm super excited to get into this and read this slowly as well. Now we're on to book number 5, and that is the copy of, oh yeah, here we go. The History of Magic that I made for myself. Amazon kind of delivered this very in a disappointing manner. The spine got all bent up, and I'm, to be honest, the print kind of came out a little not as dark as I wanted it to, but it doesn't bother me. It's still readable. It's just not the clearest thing ever, but if you read it like from a little bit of a distance, you can't really notice it. It's just when you get really close, you can see the pixelation. But History of Magic that I did, and it's, it came a little busted because of Amazon, but oh well. You get, I wanted the original text on it. So that's book number 5. And then book 6, 7, and 8. I already did a little preview, I think, in my previous video, but we've got Scene and Structure. And then we've got Characters and Viewpoint. And then we got Description. These are by different authors. The Scene and Structure is by Jack Bickham. And this was recommended to me by Morgan. So thank you again, because I'm very excited to get into this. I have a whole vibe planned out for how I want to get into them. And then in the set that I found on eBay, it came with these other 2, which is awesome. And I thought that it was very timely for me, because I was like, I could use a lesson on Characters on Viewpoint. That could be helpful. And this is written by Orson Scott Card, whom I also love as an author. The Ender's Game series, like, I love that as a kid so much too. And actually, the movie that recently came out, I can't remember what year it was, but it was the recent one. That was actually, I would say, just from my unreliable memory, that it was pretty close to the book, and I was very surprisingly delighted by it. Anyways, loved Ender's Game. And then Description is by an author named Monica Wood. I've never heard of her, but based off of the reviews I read about her version of this book, or her writing this book, my thoughts are a little scattered today. Anyways, apparently she is very well, she explains herself well, so I'm very excited to get into this as well. And just the aesthetic of these books, like, I love. Anyways, book number, we're at 9, I think. Yeah, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Whew, this came fast. I ordered this from Amazon with my points, and I got Miss Macintosh, My Darling. I talked about this in my last video, I believe. And damn, she is a big book. Like, she is a big book. How many pages? Let me show you the lines. It's like 1.5 spacing. Maybe like a little, like 1.15? 1.5-ish. Like kind of in between both. Kind of in between 1.15 and 1.5. Yeah, so this is like the margins, or this is a big book. And it is, how many pages? Oh my goodness. It is, the pages are so thin too. Ooh, 1,321 pages. But I'm very excited. This is also going to be a slow read for me. I have resolved now to read slowly, because I have just noticed that I enjoy reading so much more that way. And actually, I read faster that way. I get through more books, and I enjoy them more when I read slow. So that's what I'm doing, but I'm very excited. I'm going to get into this after, well, I'm not going to make any predictions about what books I'm going to read, because I'm usually wrong about them. But I did order a copy of The Recognitions, a physical copy, and that's gonna come soon. And like I have been loving that book. And since I had now figured out how to read that, I want to transition off of reading from the digital version to like my hard copy or my paperback copy when it comes in the mail. So I'm super excited about that. And I've got quite a lot of other big books that I want to read, but I'm intuitively getting to them. Anyways, I'm so excited for this book. It's like a textbook. Anyways, book number 10. Oh, The Poems of W.B. Yeats. Look how, I mean, this is again, secondhand copy, ex-library copy, but sometimes I actually enjoy when they come in the library wrapping, because then I feel like the dust jacket is just kind of a permanent fixture of the book, and it just makes it more durable in my opinion. So I don't mind when I get these. It's just, you know, another little feature to protect the book. But love the aesthetic of this book. And let me tell you the story of how I decided to get into Yeats, because I never was really into his poetry before. When I was reading Existentialists and Mystics by, what was her name? Iris Murdoch, that philosophy book, I got over 200 pages into that. So like, I think I was almost at 300 pages, and then I DNF'd because I needed a change of vibe. Philosophy was getting too dry for me. Anyways, it was through that book that I discovered a window into Yeats, and I definitely want to make a study out of him because he's actually very, very insightful and intuitive. So that is book number 10. And then book number 11. This is also a big one. I bought this because my library doesn't have it, and you can't, like, these kinds of books you just kind of have to collect and find. But I got World Poetry. Poetry is always interesting to me, and I like the way that it makes my mind think differently than literature. So it's a big book. How many pages is this? This is also like, let's see here. This is not including the index. Let's see here. Oh goodness. Quite a lot of acknowledgements over here. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, this whole thing is like 1,300 pages plus too. So, World Poetry, that was what? 9, 10, 11. Books 12 and 13. I got the Library of World Poetry, and I got this in a leather-bound style. So this is an older anthology, and I just like the paper, the font, the old like typeface with the ink. I love it. So this is a very beautiful book. And then last but not least, for now, because the other books are still coming in the mail, and I will show them on either this video or the next one, but we've got the complete works of William Shakespeare. She's also a big one. It's Shakespeare. What really more can I say about the genius with words and storytelling through the play format, and also he writes poetry too. So I find that he has such an interesting way of telling a story, and you know, it's Shakespeare. But I have this collection, and I've been reading this slowly as well. I've been enjoying alternating Shakespeare with William Gaddis in the recognitions. I don't know why, but I feel like this primes my brain to read Gaddis really well. So anyways, that was a long, rambly video, more candid, but you know, sometimes my brain just doesn't work the way that I want it to. But yeah.
For this session, I have written 56 words, and my week's total is 1,342, which is a really huge jump from last week. I think I'm going to get into Harry Potter next. I made it to, let's see here, chapter 15, Bobatons and Durmstrang. I'm gonna end my vlog here because it is already super long for my book talk, and I will see you in the next episode.